Welcome, welcome,
Well,
welcome. Welcome to Leadership Tidbits with Coach T. Wilson. I am your host and leadership mentor, Tywauna Wilson. I am so excited about tonight's mentor. She is coming to us all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, originally from Cincinnati. So I'm excited about that. She's going to talk to us about stepping into your greatness. I don't know about you, but we are approaching the end of the year, and it's like I need that pep talk, that kick in the butt, that how can we get through these next few months, that how can I strive for greatness? And she's going to talk to us all about stepping into our greatness. So, without further ado, our mentor for this evening, Miss Cami Barnes. Cami, how are you?
I am great. I'm so excited to be on here with you all today.
Awesome. I'm excited to have you on. I'm going to read a little bit about you. But first, before I read a little bit about you, if you are watching us tonight, please come on in. Come on into our virtual learning laboratory. Let us know where you're from so that we can welcome you in properly. So let us know where you're from. We would love to interact and engage with you. But back to our mentor for tonight. She's a wife. She's a mompreneur with passion for recruitment, empowerment, and workforce development. Cami started Executive Thrive Staffing after several years of working in human resources. She also has a background in social work and mental health, and we know how important that is right now, which has created the framework for her recruitment and consulting services. Her personal and professional experiences fuel the passion she has for cultivating opportunities for companies and employees to thrive. So, Miss Cami, I know I just read a little bit about you, but tell us about your leadership journey, who you are outside of those words that I read, and just tell us a little bit about your leadership journey.
So, you know what? I'm an encourager at heart. So that's what I have a passion for. That's what I've always had a passion for, is really just pouring into people and helping to kind of pull them out of their shell and break them out of these boxes that they put themselves in. And that's just what drives me, whether it's in with staffing, whether it's with the nonprofit organization. That's just something that's just very near and dear to my heart. And so I just want to share that with everybody.
That's awesome. I think it's important that to be able to give back and have that passion. I can tell it as you were talking. So I'm excited about what you're going to talk about. We do have some guests, and let's welcome them into our studio. So we have It's Toy from Safe Place Property Management is here to support her Thriver sister. So welcome. We have Whitney. She says, yes, step into greatness. We also have the Mister in the building, and he said, yes, she is great. The husband, thank you for supporting your beautiful wife. That's awesome. We have your granddaddy is watching from Cincinnati, Ohio. Tom. Hi, Tom. We have Ashley from Detroit, Michigan. Welcome, welcome. And I couldn't forget the son. The son and the mister is watching. So I stand corrected. So thank you all for tuning in. Do us a really big favor and share this broadcast out, because you might be the messenger that this is the key to open up the door for somebody. So share it out. And without further ado, Cami, I'll let you take it away to what you want to share with us this evening.
Okay. All right, everybody. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to have you all joining us today. So a little bit about what I wanted to talk about is just smashing through any limiting beliefs that you might have pertaining to any goals or visions that you have for your life. So what I want to start with, I want to have you all do a little brain exercise here. I'm going to have you guys close your eyes. And I want you to visualize. So I'm not going to close my eyes because I'm on camera, but you guys can close your eyes because you're at home. So close your eyes and visualize for me a little girl. She's 5 years old. She has on a superhero costume with a cape. She has a tiara on her head. She's got a Band-Aid on her knee. She's got on some dirty sneakers. And she's just a scrappy little thing. She's got these bright, beautiful eyes, this inquisitive nature, and she's just fearless. And she has all these goals and dreams that she wants to accomplish. And guess what? She just knows she's going to accomplish these things. She doesn't care how. She doesn't care, about anybody who might have any doubts about it. Those things never even occurred to her. She just knows that she has these things that she wants to do, and she's going to do it no matter what. So open your eyes now. So the way that little girl is, that innocence, that fearlessness, no self-doubt at all, no barriers holding her back from reaching her goals. That's what I want you all to get back, that you may have lost. You may have lost some of that fearlessness on your journey. Being an adult, adulting is hard, right? It's tough at times. And so that fearlessness and that innocence that we had as children, we need to get some of that back in order to really break free from these barriers. Sometimes we put those barriers on ourselves, right? Sometimes it's not even an external source that's preventing us from moving forward and accomplishing the things that we want to do. Sometimes it's all up in here. It's us. We put these limits on ourselves. And so we need to break out of that. We need to break out of that in order to move forward and step into our greatness. So I want you guys to think about, who were you before the world told you who you were? Before the world started to drop these labels on you and put you in this box and say, oh, well, you're just this and you're just that. As you grew up, throughout life, that might have been a variety of different people. Maybe it was family members. Maybe it was people in school. Maybe it was people in the workplace. Maybe it's still people in the workplace. So those things can kind of chip away at your confidence, to where if you do have goals and visions, it can make you kind of shrink yourself a little bit and shy away from really taking those risks and really stepping out there to do the things that you want to do. And then you feel stuck, right? You feel like you're stuck and you can't move forward or backward. And it's just not a good place to be in. So what we want to do is push you out of that situation, push you out of that mindset, so that you can really recognize your greatest potential and live your dreams and strive for those goals that you have, right? Just like the little girl who, she doesn't care about what anybody says. So sometimes we got to pull a little bit from that inner child that we have, that we had back in the years before we got afraid of all these things, of all of these possibilities that could stand in our way. We need to get some of that back, that fearlessness from that little girl or little boy. So what I want to hit on is there's some points, 7 key points that I'm going to tell you all about that'll help to kind of lay a framework for you on this journey towards stepping into your greatness. So, if you guys want to take notes, that would be great. If not, you guys can definitely connect with me afterwards and we can chat more about this stuff. But I've had so many people tell me lately that they feel stuck. And so I feel like a lot of times that feeling is when maybe you're working on a job that, okay, it's a paycheck, but it just doesn't leave you feeling fulfilled, and you feel like you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Maybe there's something in your heart that you gave up on a long time ago. So my first point is purpose. Find your purpose, figure out what that is, find your why. So a lot of times, a lot of people, if you're familiar with doing professional development and, listening to motivational videos, a lot of people will tell you, find your why. Why are you doing these things? What motivates you? What drives you? So really think about that. To find your purpose is going to help you. That's the first step towards getting you on the course to where you need to be headed, to stepping into your greatness. So your purpose. So in thinking about that for myself, the way that I found my purpose. So as I mentioned before, I love encouragement. I love to encourage people and pour into people. I'm a problem solver. So every job that I've had, I've tried to incorporate those things so that I could find fulfillment. Even in jobs where I didn't feel fulfilled. Maybe the pay rate was low and it was an awful environment. But I would try my best to find ways to find purpose in what it is that I was doing. If I couldn't find that purpose in my day-to-day tasks, I would, look externally. So for me, that included getting on some committees, at different workplaces. So employee engagement. So that committee helps to keep the employees engaged and, help keep them happy and, really building these relationships with them so that they could really thrive in the job, feel connected to the company. So all those things were just right up my alley because, of course, like I said, I'm an encourager. So interacting with the employees in that way, it helped me to find some of my purpose. And then also when I started the nonprofit organization, that was another way that I helped to really walk in my purpose even more, because that gave me the opportunity outside of my day-to-day, routines to really pour into people. If people needed help, I'm like, okay, here, let's talk about this. Let's figure out what the problems are. Let's attack these things one at a time. And so that for me was really finding my purpose and set me on the course to get where I am now. So the second point is prepare. So once you have your purpose, you need to prepare for that purpose, for that vision, whatever that vision is for your life, whatever that goal is for your life, whether it's to get to a certain job, to progress within your career, whether it's to go back to school and expand your knowledge, whether it's to start a business, or maybe you've never even thought of starting a business. Maybe you have a certain skill set that could be a business. You can monetize your skills, your gifts and your talents. Those things could be a business. You may have a business trapped on the inside of you that you hadn't even thought of. And so you really need to think about those things. So in your preparation, get a notepad and start to write these things down. Do your research. So if it is a business, research, what the business requirements are in your area. Actually write down the cost of what it'll take to register your business and what steps you need to take. Really write out a plan and put end dates in mind. So as you're planning your goals, have dates in mind to keep yourself accountable. Because if there's no date, if you're just writing things down and, this is just a list. Oh, I'm going to write this stuff down and I'm just going to toss this list somewhere and then it gets lost, right? So if you have a date assigned to each task on that list, it keeps you accountable. So that way you can say, okay, let me look at my list. This needs to be done by this date. So let me go ahead and do that and check that off the list. So prepare. So the next step, the next point is push. So as you start to prepare, and T, I don't know if you've experienced this yourself, but as you started to prepare to walk in this vision, those fears start to set in, right? We thought we got rid of the fears, right? We thought we got rid of that fear and the anxiety. We thought we got rid of that. But as you start to prepare, you register your business or you register for these classes and you've got this goal in mind, you've got a date in mind, and then all of a sudden it hits you and you're like, oh my gosh, am I really going to do this? And then those anxieties start to attack you. So push is that third point. Push through that fear. Because honestly, that fear is just another way to keep you trapped. and to keep you feeling stuck and keep you from progressing forward. So one of my mottos, I actually have this taped to my wall over here. You guys can't see it, but it says, "Do the scary thing first and get scared later." And so that is a motto that kind of played in my head as I decided to become a full-time entrepreneur. Because as I was all gung ho about it when I had the vision, right? I was like, yes, 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 I'm ready. Let's do this. I'm so excited and ready to go. And then, I got it all registered. I got everything all set up and stuff. And then when it was time to actually leave my full-time job, I was like, oh crap, I'm really doing this. The fear started coming and I'm like, oh my gosh. But guess what? That motto, and I have it right here where I can see it, to keep me accountable. Because once I made the decision, I'm like, okay, no, we're doing this. I'm already on this road, so we're doing it. There's no turning back now. So do the scary thing first and get scared later. Because that fear is just a distraction. It's just meant to distract you on your journey, right? It's just, this is a part of the process. So push through that fear. So the next point is perform. So perform your skills, walk in your skills and your talents. Do it. Flip that switch. Because once you've prepared, once you've started working on this goal, it's showtime now, right? It's showtime. We got to perform. We got to make this thing happen. So flip that switch and you're like, okay, let's do this. It's time to perform. It's time to do it. Whatever that is. So whether that's working your business, building your brand, whether it's now you're in school and you're working on these things and you've got these challenges coming, stay focused and you have to perform. You have to be on top of it. Have somebody who can keep you accountable. And if you can't have somebody externally to keep you accountable, keep yourself accountable by, again, tracking your goals and your progress. So for me, it really helps to do that so that I don't get overwhelmed. So I keep a notebook, I keep a journal, I keep Post-it notes, and I have goals set. So another key is to have those goals where you can see them to keep you on track. So have a daily goal, have a weekly goal, monthly goals. So all those short-term goals that you can have, so you can have something to look at to guide you on that process, right? So after you're in there and you're performing, so now you're in the process. That's the next point, the process. So the process can be tough. You were excited when you got started, right? But as time goes on, now you're getting weird. You're getting worn out. You're like, oh my gosh, am I really doing this? Days set in and you're dragging and you're like, oh my gosh, did I really make this decision? Right? You're in that process now. You're being put through the fire so you can come out on the other side and be shining like a diamond. So you're in that process. So the key here, while you're in the process, in this process season, I don't want to get churchy on y'all, but while you're in that process season, right, you have to stay on task. Don't get weary. Stay focused on your goal. That's when you think about your purpose, that purpose that you established in the beginning, that purpose that made you start on this course in the first place. So remind yourself of why you started and keep going. Don't look back. Don't get distracted. Don't look over here, over there. You're running your own race. You're not comparing yourself to other people, because that's something that we all have a tendency to do, right? Especially in the age of social media. Everybody's on social media and, oh, this person is traveling the world and doing this, and why can't I do this? No, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So focus on your own path, right? Okay, so the next step is be persistent. So once you're in that process, again, like I said, there's so many distractions that are going to come your way that are going to make you want to stop or change course. You have to have that persistence. Don't give up on yourself. This is your goal. I don't know what your spirituality is, whether you believe in God, you believe in the universe, a higher power, whatever that may be. But even if you just believe in energies, whatever energy you're putting out, you have to just be aware of that. You have to be aware of that. Be persistent towards reaching your goal. And don't let these external forces come in and steer you off course. And so that kind of segues right into my next point. The next point is prayer. But that could also be meditation for somebody who may be not religious. So again, it's a similar concept. So that energy that you're putting out, being aware of that, really just taking time to do that self-care and get yourself centered and just focus on those positive energies. Shift your mindset, shift your thinking. If you find yourself getting into these negative thought patterns, cut it off right then and there and shift your thinking to something totally different. Because sometimes we can get in our own heads and these negative thoughts will replay and replay, and it's talking us out of doing things. So you have to just cut that off right where it is. Get somewhere to yourself, clear your thoughts, focus, regroup, and just get that positivity back. Whatever you need to do to get that back, whether that's journaling, whether it's talking to someone who can help keep you accountable, turning on some music that relaxes you so that you can center your thoughts. It's important. It's important to help you so you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So that's important to help you get back to a place where you can continue to move forward on your path. Now, let's see. I'm going to look at some of these comments here. Okay.
And Cami, I thought that was great. I love that. The 7 key points, your 7 P's is what I got. You're finding your purpose and being prepared and pushing through fear. Fear will come up, and fear has stole a lot of dreams because people have gotten sidetracked or not been able to push through. You got to be able to perform. It's cool to have a goal. It's cool to have an idea, but you got to be able to perform. And I love that you said set a date to it. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes you're like, I got to go. I'm going to start that business. Like I was like 3 years ago. Like when? Are you starting the next week? Are you starting the next month? That having a date to it to make it real and really getting with an accountability partner. I mean, that's why so many goals, so many dreams, go where they're not fulfilled, because it's like you need a friend, you need a partner, you need to be able to have somebody to help you stay accountable. That process, being persistent, you got to keep pushing, you got to be persistent. It's going to get tough. And it's going to get difficult. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
That's true.
And prayer, listen, prayer changes things. And I think, especially when you're trying to reach any big dream, any big goal, it's going to take some prayer. It's going to take some faith to keep pushing. Because if not, you may want to give up. You may get frustrated. So I love the 7 P's, but that was just my 2 cents, my takeaways. We carry on. But I think those are fantastic. So those of you who didn't get them, please drop in the comments as you think of things that come to mind from what Cami has shared with us, or if you have questions as we work the comments, please feel free to jump in.
All right. Looks like Toy said that prayer has definitely become true for her recently. Yes, I see that. You and me both. Is absolutely necessary, especially when you find yourself kind of feeling down and you have multiple things kind of coming at you at once. you have to just get back to a point where you can be centered. And for me, that's what prayer does. It helps me to refocus and renew my mind. And I'm sure you can relate to that too, T. It's important to be able to renew your mind whenever your mind is just weary and just you're just feeling worn out and just heavy. Just to be able to release those things that are weighing you down, so that you can just keep going and keep pushing forward.
Absolutely. The 7 P's, major keys.
Yeah, 7. You know, that number 7 is completion.
And then my friend Lamont says, no prayer, no direction. You know what they say about people that have no prayer and no direction? They have another P, and that's called perish.
Important.
Absolutely. So, Cami, which one of these do you think were the hardest, or which phase did you stay in the longest as you were getting ready to become a full-time entrepreneur and say, okay, I'm leaving this W-2, this steady paycheck, I'm doing it. It all sounds good when we talk about these things, but which of these do you think were the phase that you really stayed in the longest? And what kind of helped you get over that hump, that fear, to be able to push through and say, you know what, I'm going to do it. Like, this is my notice, I'm giving you 2 weeks or whatever you gave, and this is it. I know what my next is, and I'm okay with it.
So you know what? Prayer. That was the biggest. And so I made that the last point, but prayer was all up and through this whole process, to be perfectly honest with you, because that's scary. It's scary going from a steady paycheck that's predictable every couple weeks to being entirely dependent on, how well this business is going to do. And then being a new business owner is tough in and of itself, because you're building that thing brick by brick. Like, you're starting from nothing with building a business. So for me, I prayed about it quite a bit when I first had the idea. And I feel like God gave me the vision. And when I first got that vision, I was like, okay, I was excited about it. Like I said before in my examples. And so I'm like, okay, well, I need to have some money saved. I need to have these things, in place before I can make that decision. So, there was that preparation piece. And so for me, when I finally decided to go ahead and put my notice in at my full-time job, I had some money saved. I also was in the process that same week that was my last week on that job. I got my first contract with a client, with a staffing client. So I feel like throughout that process, as I was praying, I feel like God was giving me answers, and it was like every time I prayed about a certain thing, it was like God was like, okay. And it was like he was guiding my steps. And just picture yourself in this tunnel, and the ground is lighting up as you walk. So every step I took, I kind of stood there for a moment, and I prayed again. I'm like, okay, God, now what? And then he lit up the next stone, and I'm like, okay. And so I felt like that's the way that it was happening, because when I decided to leave my job, when I prayed, I told God, I said, well, okay, God, I need this amount of money in order for me to be able to quit this job. And so within a few weeks, I had that amount. And then I was still like, ooh, I don't know. Like, okay, God, I got the money now, but I don't know. And it's like, and it's so funny, because I don't know if you can relate to this, but I have conversations with God like that's my actual father. Like, and I believe God has a sense of humor. And I'm sure he probably laughs at me sometimes, because it's like, okay, God, I think I'm ready now. I'm like, okay. So he gave me the money, and I was still kind of hesitant. And then that's when I signed that first contract. And then I was like, okay, I took that as a sign that him telling me, like, okay, you said you were going to do this now, so go ahead and do it. So that's when I did it. And so I just needed to continue to pray throughout that whole process, because one thing that God will do is he'll give you a vision, but he won't show you what that whole process looks like, because then you might be too scared to take a step forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might be too scared of that process. If you saw all the twists and turns and, all the potholes and all that stuff, you'd be like, ooh, I don't know if I want to take that. Right? You'd be look like, ooh, I don't know. So he doesn't show us that part. He shows us the end piece. He shows us the vision. And he's just like, okay, go on. I'm with you. So he's guiding you through that process. But yeah, I definitely had some rough patches on the journey. So I was in that process and, getting weary at times. And so the prayer has been completely necessary for me throughout the entire process, just to keep me grounded and to keep me going.
That totally makes sense. And I love what you talked about, that just stepping into your greatness. And whether you're a praying person or you're a person that meditates or whatever the case may be for you, just know it's going to be a process. You're going to have to be persistent. You're going to have to push through. And in order for you to really step into that greatness. And it's Toy said, the push is real too. Just because you have a dream, it doesn't mean there won't be challenging days. And that's absolutely, think about it. And I don't want to sound morbid, but think about the amount of dreams that's in the cemetery. People have dreams all the time, but they don't push through. They don't stay persistent. They don't trust the process. They don't have a prayer. They don't have an accountability partner. And then for them to step on their greatness, it's like, okay, I think I'm a step, but it's getting a little dicey here. It's getting a little, the road is getting a little rocky. I'm not quite sure. And so you're right. The push is real. It is
Mm-hmm.
real out here. So what kind of advice would you give, Cami, to somebody that's like on that verge and they like, okay, I'm praying, even though they worrying, and you know what they say about that. If you're gonna pray and worry, you really shouldn't do both. Either you're gonna pray or you're gonna worry. But what advice would you give somebody that's like, I have a dream, I have a vision, and I know greatness is out there for me, and I know I'm one step away from it, but I just don't even know how to get started. Sometimes, and I know in your space of coaching and empowering women and children and families, I know that you come across this quite often. But how do you even help somebody get started? Because sometimes that's the crutch. It's like, I don't even know where or how to start, much longer get an accountability partner, because I don't even know what I need to be getting started with.
Mm-hmm. So the key in that respect is planning. So I would talk it through with them. Sometimes just talking through your goals can give you clarity, because sometimes we have these things in our head and it might make sense, but it might be a little bit jumbled and discombobulated. So sometimes just talking it through and having somebody to bounce your ideas off of really can help to give you clarity. Really creating a plan is important, because like I mentioned, if you don't have goals short term, with actual dates in mind, it's not going to do you any good, because you can say all day long, oh, I want to do X, Y, and Z. But until you actually create a plan and put that plan in practice, it's not going anywhere. Because like I said, you write that down on a piece of paper and pile stuff on top of it as the day goes on, and then it just gets lost in the shuffle. But if you put it somewhere where you can see it, so a Post-it note, if you put a date attached to it, and then you tell somebody about it, somebody close to you who you know can be that accountability partner for you, and say, hey, I want to do these things. These are the dates that I want to have this stuff done by. I'm going to give myself 30 days to hit this goal. I need to do X, Y, and Z by the end of the month. Then that person is going to keep you accountable, because they're going to say, hey, did you do this? did you do X, Y, and Z yet? And you're like, ooh, you know what? No, I didn't. Thank you for telling me. You know how that goes. So, it's like a little jab to you. You're like, ooh, you know what? I didn't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me get back on track. And then there you go. You're back on it. And you look at your list again. You're like, okay, let me go ahead and do this because I know so and so is gonna tell me if I don't do it. She's gonna bring it up. She's gonna say something. So let me go ahead and do this and check this off the list.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. And sometimes that's why people don't be telling people because
Right.
they know they got that person in their circle that's gonna be telling them, like, girl, I remember you
Mhm.
told me this last month, and I don't know if you're doing anything or not, but I haven't seen no progress. So what you doing? That's why people don't be wanting to tell.
That's right. But you have to, though. You have to because it keeps you accountable. So if you are ready to really get serious about it, it's important that you do that. It's very important because otherwise, yeah, like you're saying, if you don't tell anybody, then you can just have this goal that, this kind of just stuck in this box in your head and it's not going anywhere. You're not making any progress forward and you're just still stuck. So sometimes you have to just step out of that comfort zone. Nothing grows in comfort zones. You can't grow in
Absolutely.
your comfort zone. You have to get uncomfortable sometimes to really grow. Those growing pains, and it's not comfortable. It's not going to be comfortable. So expect for it not to be comfortable. It's not supposed to be. Because if it was easy, like you said, if it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
Yeah,
So
they
that's the
would.
key. Just getting over that hump will get you will get you on that path towards really walking in your purpose and reaching your full potential.
Absolutely. So Lamont said, great point about setting a buy win date always helps. That way it gets out of your mind and it holds you accountable. And Mr. Barnes says, how important is being fearless to the 7 P's? So we hear a lot about you need to be fearless, activate your fearless. Go on out there and be fearless. I said be fearless now. So how important is it as part of the 7 P's?
You know what? Fear can keep you all bound up. It can keep you bound up in a little tight little ball in a box to where you just feel stuck. So that is very important. It's very important to really push past that fear because like I said, that where you are, so that fear that you start to feel is because you're starting to get outside your comfort zone. So I'll use myself as an example. When that anxiety started to kick in, when I made that decision to leave my job, it sounded good all the way right up until when I was about to hit send on so I had typed up my resignation letter and I was going to email it. And so right as I was about to hit that button and hit that send button, I was like, ooh, am I really doing this? And then all that fear started coming in then, and it's like, ooh, are we doing this? And so for me, I feel like I'm really able to tap into that fearless little girl. And so I just was like, boop, I'm just gonna go ahead and hit send and just channel that motto of do the scary thing first and get scared later. And so I hit send and I was like, I did feel a little bit anxious afterwards, but I actually felt relief, to be honest. Once I hit the send button, so I was nervous before I hit it. But then once I hit the send button, like a sense of relief kind of came over me. And so sometimes all it takes is that first step because we can talk ourselves out of it and throw all these what ifs into the equation. But sometimes all it takes is for you to take that one step and then it just gets easier as you move forward. But that one step sometimes can be the hardest part. So just pushing past that and just getting on the other side of it and just tell yourself, like, you know what? Everything is going to be okay. This vision is important. I have my why. I know why I'm doing this. I know why. I have my purpose. So I'm going to do this, period. No matter what. And then you have to just push forward and take that step forward.
I agree. So, Cami, you are very encouraging and enthusiastic, and we've known each other for a while. You're a mom, you're a wife, you're a business owner. How do you keep your cup full? How do you keep yourself smiling? I know you have a young one. Your child is younger than mine, and I know that he's busy. Listen, I know,
Whew,
but
yes.
so how do you keep yourself kind of motivated and continuing to step into your greatness when you're so much to so many?
So, you know what? I will be very transparent with you on this. There are hard days. There's there's no way to avoid those hard and challenging days. So, if you have to take a rest, step away from everything for a little bit, give yourself a break. It's necessary. It's necessary to really be intentional about your self-care. So, as you mentioned, with a very young child, my youngest is 10 months old and he's very demanding. He's the boss baby. Nothing happens in the world in this house without him being first, thought of and taken care of. He's the boss. Um, and so trying to manage multiple businesses and just the day-to-day needs and also, dealing with family and a young child, it can wear you out. So for me, what helps is being organized. So, and I tend to lean more towards being organized anyway, because I'll be very transparent with you on this one too. So I am actually anxiety prone. I'm prone to feeling anxious. And I know that about myself though. And so that's another key, is that if you're self-aware, so for me, knowing certain things about myself, I've learned over time how to manage and deal with my own issues and my own self. So, because I know I'm prone to anxiety, I have to maintain a certain level of organization in order for me to be able to function properly, in order for me to get things done, according to when it needs to be done. So, really planning out my day and staying on top of things and keeping lists, and I have a dry erase board right here above my computer, and so I just stay really structured and organized as much as possible, because of course, working from home most of the time and having a young one, that can be tough too. So it's really just a matter of being prepared and just staying, keeping that preparation, staying organized, knowing what your goals are. That helps me quite a bit because I track my goals daily. I also track them weekly. And so that helps me to stay on task and keep things, kind of on track, so that I don't feel like too bogged down. And then if I need to take a break, I'll just write on my little board, break. It's almost like I keep myself accountable, almost as if maybe if I did have a boss, um, but I am my own boss. So, I'm tracking these things for myself. So that way I can visually see what it is that I'm doing, what needs to be done, and carve out that time to where I'm going to just step away for a bit.
Hmm. I love that you said that, because even when you step into your greatness, there are days where it's tough. There are days when you may not feel great, but you keep pushing. And I think that's important, because sometimes, we put so much on ourselves, and sometimes we give up. It's like, well, how am I stepping into my greatness if I'm wore out and I'm exhausted, and it's okay to be wore out and exhausted sometimes. Sometimes I think we're too hard on ourselves.
Mhm.
And I'm happy you were transparent and said that sometimes it's a juggling act. It's a
Oh,
juggling act, trying to keep all the balls in the air. But you still can step into your greatness, and it still goes back to the 7 P's.
mhm. It always goes back. It does.
Always go.
It all ties in, and it doesn't. And so those 7 P's, they don't have to be in a certain order, because there's some days you might be in this, utilizing this part of the process. You might be doing more preparation if you're deciding to change course as you're on a goal. So one thing about walking in your greatness and really striving in your greatness is that when you have goals, sometimes as you're headed towards, reaching that goal, while you're on that path, you might discover that this isn't for you. You might discover that there's something about this particular goal that you had before that you don't like anymore. So you're not tied to it. You're not stuck. At any time, you can change course. You can shift your thinking about a goal. And so I'll use myself as an example of that too. So when I first started my staffing agency, initially I was pretty much open to staffing for a variety of different roles and different industries and things like that. But as the journey progressed, and I learned more about the business, my thinking shifted a bit. So now I'm, primarily staffing executive leadership roles, and I'm also providing consulting services. And so those things weren't a part of that vision when I first started the agency. So that's just an example of how, as you're on the process, as you're on that road of really striving towards your greatness, things can change, and that's okay. You're not, tied to a specific thing. If at any time, if something is not working, or maybe you had this vision and the vision has evolved a bit, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. So ultimately, you have to be willing to adapt to the situation as things progress. And you're still walking in your greatness. Even if you make changes or you shift course a little bit and you decide, okay, well, I was working towards this particular degree, but now I'm discovering that maybe my passion lies with this field. So it's totally okay to change course and say, okay, well, I feel more led this way, so let me go this direction. As long as you're moving forward, you're striving for your greatness. There's nothing at all wrong with that.
That's good. That's really good. And Whitney says, knowing your faults and being honest with yourself about those so that you can work around them. She said that's very good advice. That whole being self-aware
It's
is
absolutely necessary.
absolutely. And so our time is almost coming to a close, but here we like to give practical tips, and you gave a lot of great tips today during your message with the audience. And so what practical tip or additional tip would you like to leave the viewers or the listeners, whoever will watch this or listen to the replay, with that they can walk away with and start to implement right away?
So one thing I would say that you can implement right away is get yourself a notebook or a journal. Either one would work. Really get somewhere quiet and think about your goals. Think about some of those things that you enjoy doing. Think about your skills. Think about your gifts, and write those things down. Because even if you've never had a desire to start a business, there may be a way to monetize your gifts and your skill set. So even if, because I realize, that nowadays everybody talks about being an entrepreneur and being their own boss, but that's not for everybody.
Mhm.
So there should never be an expectation that everybody needs to be an entrepreneur, because it's trust me, it's not for everybody. Some days I don't feel like it's for me. I'm just transparent again. But even if you're working your regular job still, and maybe you just want to make a little bit of extra money on the side with one of your gifts or your skills, that's fine. That just may be another way for you to feel like you're walking in your purpose, to add more value to your life. just to incorporate some things that you enjoy, and why not make some money from it if it's possible. So I would say write down your skills, write down any goals that you might have, and start to really make yourself accountable to reaching those goals by putting a date on it. So set some short-term goals. So there are things that you can complete in the short term. Within the next 30 days, I want to accomplish X, Y, and Z. Within the next 60 days or the next 6 months, you can set a goal out as far as a year. And you can even set those bigger, lofty goals for, what do I want the next 5 years to look like for me professionally? And really start to write those things down, because it makes it more real, and just kind of getting those things out of your head and onto paper so that you can see it. Sometimes that can help you to really visualize it too, is if you have it written down, you can really start to think about and meditate on those things and strategize. Because if you haven't written it down, you're not even, headed in that next step towards really thinking about how you can reach these goals. But if you have it written down, the next step is going to be like, well, maybe I should look into this. Let me research it. Let me Google this and find out some more information on what it'll take for me to get there.
That's good. So Cami gave us some very practical tips, and it doesn't take much. A notebook and a pen, and
Yes,
get
perfect.
started writing down your goals. Get it out of your head. Sometimes you can't trust your head. So get it out of your head and start writing down those goals, and making sure you put a timepiece to it. So I'm going to challenge you to write down your goals for the next 2 weeks. Let we go start there. So the next 2 weeks, let us know what it is in the chat so we can hold you accountable. You got to get it out of your head, and you might as well go ahead and let the public know. So what are you planning on doing in the next 2 weeks? Right? Go ahead and drop that in the chat. Yes, putting you on the spot so that you can get accountable to your goals. Cami, this has been so fun and very enlightening. It just, that enthusiasm definitely radiated through. And I just love hearing and seeing your journey. So, how can the viewers stay or get connected with you and continue to follow and support you on your journey?
So you guys can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can also go to, so all of my social media profiles are on my speaker website, which is camibarnes.com. All of my business websites are hyperlinked there as well. My social media accounts are hyperlinked there as well. Also, if you want to reach out to Coach T, she can send you my way. I know that you've got some friends and family that have joined the call as well. So if you'd like to reach out to Coach T and she can connect us, that would be fine.
Well, I hope you all reach out to Cami. Make sure you reach out to her, show her some love in the comments. I think she did a phenomenal job today, getting us back to, sometimes it's getting back to the basics, the 7 P's. Start with that of what you learned tonight. Push through. Make sure you got a purpose, prayer, the process. Listen, you cannot go wrong with the 7 key points. So thank
Right.
so thank you, Cami, for coming to our virtual learning laboratory tonight and spending your time. I definitely appreciate you sharing with the audience these awesome nuggets that people can use each and every day. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for having me, T. I appreciate you. This is awesome.
Anytime. Feel free to come back anytime. So, thank you, viewers and listening audience. This has been another show. We thank you for watching and listening to this episode of Leadership Tidbits with Coach T. Wilson with Cami Barnes, where she gave us the 7 P's of stepping out into our greatness. So, we thank you for joining us today. and come back next week where we will have another mentor and it'll be another amazing show. And until then, have an awesome week.